Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Putt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect, Cool Stuff Inc., and Quiver. Today I have one of the coolest guests I could possibly have, Magali Villeneuve, one of the most beloved artists of modern Magic, like the coolest one, and somehow she managed to come onto my show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Oh my God. You're seriously one of my favorite artists in Magic,
Oh,
and
thank you.
honestly, I think you're like everybody's favorite artist in Magic.
I'm not sure, but it's always good to hear that.
Wow. So, God, I don't even know where to begin. I'm so excited to talk to you. First off, I want to say that the artwork you did for Titania
Mm.
is one of my all-time favorite art, and it's my favorite commander. I had a proxy guy make a full art version of it that you signed for me at some Magic Fest or Magic Con or something. But it's still, I just love that artwork and the way you did the shadowing and the lighting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just stunning to me.
It's a
So,
pretty
I would.
it's a pretty old one, but I'm always surprised to see that so many people still have that card and still play it.
Oh, the card is amazing. The card is super good, and it's also just gorgeous. I'm not gonna not play it. I'm glad that Magic gives you really strong playable cards to go with your art,
Mm.
because there was a time for a long time where they would give artists amazing briefs and we would get incredible paintings and they would put them onto cards that are completely unplayable. And you're like, what a waste. What a waste
But
of
you
good
know,
artwork.
it still does happen because I always have that type of cases where you worked hard. I mean, I work hard on all cards. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
make any difference between potentially strong ones or others or commons or whatever. That's not a
Yeah.
problem for me. But you work on a piece. And then at the end, the card is released, and you're so happy because you're going to share it and all. And then you always have someone in the comment telling you, okay, the art is good, but the card is ugh.
I
So
wish
yeah,
I
I'm gonna like that's a bit sad for me.
I hate when that happens so much. I'm like, God, she's not the one you should be telling
Yes,
this to.
it's not
Just
my fault.
appreciate. Yeah, you just did the artwork.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm like, I pulled up in Skyfall like a gallery of all of your artwork, and I'm just like, oh my God, there's so many cool ones here I want to talk about. Uh, can we actually just go back a few steps and uh, so I want to know, when did you really start like doing painting professionally for like, or how did you get into painting professionally?
It was 17 years ago.
Oh goodness.
Because I've only been working for Magic for 10 years, but I
That's a
started
long
in
time
yeah,
too.
I actually started 17 years ago. Well, I wanted to do that job um, from the moment I was like 12, because
Mm,
all of a sudden I have some kind of a revelation watching Beauty and the Beast,
ah,
Disney's movie. And that's when I started really drawing. Before that, I was not really drawing that much. All of a sudden, I started doing that. At first, I wanted to be an animator for Disney,
mm,
and that dream followed me for a few years. And then when I was around 18, I discovered fantasy literature.
mm,
I was not reading that type of books before. A friend of mine made me discover The Wheel of Time,
mm.
and yes, yes,
Oh, I
a
love
big
the Wheel of
one.
Time.
Yes, and I really fell in love with the genre. I completely discovered it thanks to these books, and that's when
Oh
I
my
I changed my main
pathway.
goal, and I wanted to become a book illustrator, because I wanted to hopefully work for, IPs like The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, maybe, or such
Yeah.
things. And yeah, that's when I made the strong decision to become a professional. I learned all by myself. I never been to any art
What?
school or
Really?
whatever. Yeah, yeah, really.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is
You're
crazy. I couldn't afford any art class or any art school, so I had to, to find my own solutions to evolve.
Oh my
And
god,
then
but the way you do faces is so good.
yeah, yeah, but
How do you
that's the things I like to do. I've always been like a portrait maker above anything else.
Oh
And
my god.
yeah, it took me a few years to get to a level where I thought, it was good enough to send my first portfolios. So it was in like 2006 when I started as a pro, and I started, with really tiny publishing houses in France. That's how it's all
Mm.
started. Yeah.
Have you done any Wheel of Time artwork?
No.
Even for yourself?
Yeah, that's the one that's still missing.
Oh my god. I would kill to see your version of, like, Rand or Perrin
Oh,
or
me
something
too.
that
I would kill to see
oh my
that.
god, just like with
Oh,
ooh,
yes,
I'm
yes,
just getting
yes.
chills thinking about how cool that would be.
I would love
Just
it.
you, like, drawing them channeling would be so amazing.
Yeah.
I might need to get a an artist proof and have you draw on the back of
Yeah,
Wheel
that
of
would be
Time
a good
characters.
solution to make it happen.
Um, oh, god, just looking through your art portfolio for Magic even, you must have had a great time drawing, like, for the Lord of the Rings that just came out, getting to do, like, Gandalf and Aragorn and everything?
Yeah, yes, that was really awesome. I was really spoiled with that set. I'm generally spoiled with magic. I cannot complain. And yeah, when I received my assignments for The Lord of the Rings, I mean, what can you dream of after that?
Yeah, right? You're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
you want me to draw." Okay.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna take it on. Gandalf, all right. Eowyn, of course.
Galadriel? Oh my
Oh
god,
yeah,
that's
I cannot
oh,
refuse. I don't know. Yeah, of course. I had worked for the Lord of the Rings before,
mm,
back long ago when I was working for Fantasy Flight Games, because they created the LCG about
yes.
the Lord of the Rings. So I made dozens and dozens of cards for that game. So it was really a nice comeback. Like, I had the feeling that I went full circle, and now I
Mm,
was working on the Lord of the Rings for Magic. I really loved it, and I really loved it also because it was a fresh approach of the
yeah.
world. So I really loved it. It gave me the feeling that I was not doing the same thing all over again.
Mm,
So it was like something new, but still familiar. So yeah, it was really cool.
yeah. The interpretation Magic took for Lord of the Rings was amazing. I personally appreciated it a lot, and I think it looked really gorgeous on the cards.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yes, and I'm sure that all the illustrators who worked on the set were like, okay, you can feel it. I think looking at the illustrations that everybody really gave all they had to make it look really cool,
oh,
and
yeah.
it does look really good at the end.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, I have a French question to ask you. Have you ever drawn asterisk and obelisk?
A what?
Do you know asterisk and obelisk? I don't know, what do they call them in France? There's a comic of the 2 Gauls, the short one and the big fat one, and, uh,
No, I don't
yeah,
think so. Yeah.
it's a hang on a second. Sorry, like, when I was growing up and as a child in school, we learned to, in, like, 4th, 5th grade, they started teaching us French, Spanish, and Latin, and
Hmm.
one of the ways that they started teaching us French was using, The Adventures of Asterix, which was, a
Oh,
comic.
yes, now I understand the word. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's a really famous comic book in France,
yeah.
okay? I
It was
read
by,
everything,
René
I
Goscinny
read
and
them all, I read them all. Yes, yes, it's really like it's part of our monuments, you have the Eiffel
yeah,
Tower, and you also have Asterix and Obelix, okay?
yes.
It's really important, and I never ever tried to draw these characters for some reason.
Yeah, because I know that they're really comical and really kind of funny looking, and I was
Yeah.
just like, "Man, if you put your Magali kinda shine over it, it would be so funny."
Do you imagine that, maybe Asterix with long flowy hair? Like I like to paint them.
That would be amazing. That would be so cool.
And
I don't know.
because he has blonde hair, so he will look so nice.
Oh, yeah, with the flowing in the wind.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my god. Um, do you remember what your first magic assignments were, or
Yes,
how
of
did you get
course.
working for magic?
I simply sent a portfolio. I
Mm,
had, as I said, I had like a um, 6, 7 years of career behind me. I
mm.
really wanted to work for magic from day one, actually, but I felt that I was not ready.
Were
Like,
you
I mean,
familiar with magic before?
um, uh, I I didn't play Magic, but I knew
Mm,
the game because back to high school, the
mm.
guys were playing Magic, and I was watching them play, but I was mostly interested in the illustrations
Mm,
already. So that was my main point of focus. So yeah, and I followed, you know, Magic's evolution as far as
yeah.
art was concerned through the years. So it was really a huge, huge goal for me to work for that game. But I was not really hoping it would happen because the level was so high, and I had the
Mm.
feeling that I would never be, good enough to try it. So yeah, it took me a good 6, 7 years to have enough courage to build a portfolio, especially for Wizards of the Coast. And then I sent my portfolio, and I was like hired immediately by Jeremy Jarvis.
Mm.
It was like, I mean. I still have this email and I still remember that day. And I still remember where I was when I received the email. So it's telling you a bit of how important it was for me. Mm.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I can imagine getting to work on your dream job and just
Yeah.
I your portfolio must have impressed them right away though, because like, your early artwork was incredible. Like, I'm just looking at some of the stuff you did from the, I guess, like, Warwing Siren from Journey into Nyx or Quiet Contemplation from Khans of Tarkir or
Mm.
whatever, just stunning. Um, you've never drawn like a dragon though. I would love to
Yes,
see
I
what your
did.
version of a
Yes,
did
I
you?
did. Not for Magic
Not for Magic, but for
directly. It
something else?
was for the crossover between Magic and D&D, and
Mm.
I made the key art showing Dritz
Oh.
charging the dragon, the red dragon. Yes, so I did. Yes, there is a dragon somewhere. There is a dragon somewhere, and there is a goblin, which is pretty unusual for me. So yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean, you have it right. I'm not really a creature maker in Magic. I'm more
mm.
like a humanoid maker. Yeah.
Yeah, you draw a lot of angels and people and
Yep.
elves and things.
Yeah, yeah. But
I don't know, I just
because
think, like,
they
your
know that's my main skill, drawing pretty people. So that's what I do.
I mean, yes, that's true. You did draw a werewolf once, though, that was really
Yep.
cool.
Absolutely. The Hunt Master of the Fells. Yes. And
It's
the
that's
flip
such a
card.
good it's such a good card. I would love to see your version of, like, a Shivan dragon, though, because just that would be a big,
Mm.
majestic looking that would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
But
Um
I like it whenever an art director is willing to try a challenge with me. I mean,
mm,
I'm not the type of person who's gonna ask for something that is I'm I'm happily taking whatever they want to give me. I'm not like
sure.
gonna start asking for I want this or I want that. I mean, that's their job and they know their job perfectly. So whenever, for example, when I got to paint the key art for Lord of the Ring D&D magic thing, I was like, okay, if you think I can do it, I'm gonna try. But
So,
it's pretty challenging for me. Yeah.
can we talk about the process? Like, when they tell you, for instance, that the Drizzt key art for D&D, how do you, like how do you approach an assignment like that? Like, because they come and say, like, "We want our most famous elf to go and fighting a dragon." How would you go about doing that?
Well, what's helping at first is that we have a pretty precise direction. That is, we want to see this character in that type of action, and we want that type of atmosphere, and we want that point of focus. We want that type of feeling uh, coming through your illustration. That's a good starting point. Sometimes I tend to think that too much freedom can be a little
Mm,
overwhelming, I would say. So starting from that, I'm trying to different approaches, like different camera angles.
Mm,
I'm not the type of illustrator who's gonna come up with 5, 6 different sketches.
mm,
A lot of the process is happening in my head first, and then after that, I after so many years working, I've got
a
a
good
pretty
idea of where you
precise
want to
good
go.
idea of what's gonna work and what's gonna also work inside the layout I'm being
Mm,
given, especially like for a key art. It's really an even more precise composition work than the cards who that are a bit more simple, I would say.
right.
So yeah, I've got a I got a rough idea in general of what's gonna work, the type of angle and all. So after that, I'm just gonna send my sketch is if there are more than one to the art director. But in general, and I don't really know what the art directors think about that, but they never complain, so I think it's okay. But in general, I tend to send one option because in general, it's the option I believe the most in. So
Mm.
I'm kind of hoping that they're going to share the feeling. So in general, it works like that.
Yeah, and I think they trust you at this point because you've just sent so many hits that I think they're
Mm,
like, okay, if this is what you think is going to go, let's try to work within this context. I mean,
mm.
do they ever give you notes and like say, please, can you change this or move these guys around or
Yeah,
stuff like
of
that?
course. I mean, it's it. I wouldn't say that it's happening all the time. In general, it does happen sometimes, but not that often, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm.
But of course, we are here to to make some changes if need be. We are here to adjust things because it can all. There's always a good reason when a change is needed, and that's something I have no problem with.
Have they ever come back to you with like some very drastic changes or like, oh, we've changed the way this character is supposed to look or something like that?
No, no,
Okay, well, that's
nothing
probably
that I can remember at least.
that's good planning on their part then.
Yeah.
Um, can I ask about some specific cards? I'm really curious about those 5 stained glass lands that you did for Dominaria United, which
Yes.
are just stunning. In my opinion, some of the best basic lands I've ever made, and it just, like, when I saw them for the first time, I was like, A, I didn't realize you could do lands, and B, I couldn't believe how incredible these looked. Like, these just are each one of them has got a completely different kind of tone to it, but they all feel cohesive, like you could hang them on the wall, and I just am curious if you could walk me through, like, kind of your thought process behind that and how we got to this point.
That assignment was really a really interesting one. Even
Yeah, what did they
today,
ask you?
well, it was pretty simple. One day, all of a sudden, I received an email. I think it was entitled like "Something Very Special Just for You." I think that was the title of the email, and that's always a good sign, when you receive that. So yeah, and it was Tom Jencott, I think, who was sending
Mm,
me this commission. And yeah, it was just about, would you be interested in working on your own uh, series of basic lands and with a stained glass approach? I think that the stained glass thing was already going on at that moment.
yeah,
So
that's
I
not
mean, it
like
was,
the
yeah,
theme of Dominaria.
it was as simple as that. Even today, I'm still not sure what convinced them to do that. I always had a feeling that maybe the land I had made just before for my artist series Secret Lair, the
Right.
one showing like a stone wall with
Yes.
the forest thing. Maybe that was what helped with the decision, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's just because I am pretty good at motifs and patterns or things like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
I wanna
maybe
talk
it
about
was
your
just
secret lair next too, so
the leap of faith. I don't know. So, so
mm,
yeah, and the requirements were really simple. It was just yeah, I had to find a way to show something like a stained glass window showing the symbol of each land, and to use some Dominaria, um, you know, um,
theme
signs
or
here and there, some clues of Dominaria. So, and starting from that, I was completely free to do whatever I thought was best. They didn't give me any idea of what to include and how to proceed, and they just wanted it to look more or less like stained glass, of course. And starting from that, they wanted to see what were my ideas to create that.
Hmm.
So yeah, of course, to create them, I had to go and to do some researches to see what stained glass were really about, because it's a whole, it's a technique in itself, trying to understand what makes a
Gosh,
stained
where
glass
in
look.
France are you going to
Yeah.
see any stained glass?
um, yeah, I'm wondering if it's the right country for that type of things. Yes, of course, they are everywhere, and it's a part of our culture, I think, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, but also there was a another side to the challenge, is that you had to make it look like more modern, because magic is not something, it's, you had
Yeah.
to make it look like something from nowadays. You had to find the right meeting point between the, like, church representation and then the game itself. That's not
Mm.
so. Yeah. And yeah, I, I tend to say that they all went pretty easily. The process was pretty smooth, except for the island.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah, the island was really challenging. At first, I came up with, a really flowy design with like a swirling motif around
Mm.
the main drop. And in the end, I started to realize that it was so different from the four others, and
Mm.
and and yet Wizards had approved that first approach. They had no problem with that, but it was a personal choice to make a complete change and to go
Mm.
for something like more like the rest of the series, because I really wanted, of course, I was thinking about the final result, and I was thinking about the five lands side by side, and I didn't want people to start thinking, oh, I don't know, this one maybe is a bit different. Why is it different? So I didn't want that. So I try to find a more, like, it's in a way more simple than my first approach, but so much more complicated than the others, because if you look closely at all the teeny tiny details everywhere, it's
Oh
just like,
yeah.
this one really took the longest time. And
Y-
mm.
Honestly, it's my favorite one of the lot, and I love all of them a
Yay.
lot. I was actually going to ask you about that because one of my personal passions is Moroccan and Islamic tile work.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of that kind of geometric kind of style you see in a lot of these like mosques and old like buildings like that.
Mm,
And your island's got this gorgeous geometric motif going on in the background with repeating blues and yellows and kind of that hexagon that looks very complicated. And it fits in my mind very blue
mm,
in the magic sense of like,
mm.
oh, blue is all about like, logic and mathematics and rigor and
Yeah.
repetition. And it just gets this incredible,
Mm,
it both conveys the vibe of the color
mm,
and the nature of it in magic as well as
mm,
fitting with the series really
mm.
really well. And I don't know, I think you did absolutely fantastic with that one.
Well, that's
like I
great to
want to
hear.
make these out of
Yeah,
glass.
you have a really keen eye as far as the meaning of details is concerned, because that was exactly the intent,
Mm,
trying to find a way to evoke the color and still
yeah.
make it look good. So yeah, yeah, that's great to
Yeah,
hear.
and the clouds on there looked very Japanese, almost sumie
Mm,
style
mm,
with the little curly. I mean,
yep.
it's just such a wonderful blend of different kind of styles of art, and then
Mm,
trying to make it look like glass out
mm,
of paint is just really difficult. Like the thing that got me about all five of these is that your lighting, it feels like somebody is holding a candle behind these pictures, and that's incredibly difficult to
mm,
do, especially to make it diffuse out like that.
yeah.
And it's
And
brilliant.
what's funny is that when the series was released, I gotta say that it's probably one of the biggest success as far as prints are concerned on my side.
Oh, I
That
believe
I
it.
mean, people went like crazy buying prints of these lands, which I am
Every
really
time I try, they're
grateful
always sold
for.
out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had so many questions about people asking me, "Do you know if there would be a way to print them on like a transparent material because I would like to backlight. And
Yeah.
people were really into the idea of having them look like actual windows. So yeah, that was a really fun one, a fun thing.
Yeah, they're just phenomenal, and I think all 5 of them turned out absolutely gorgeous. Um, so what can we talk about your secret lair for a minute though? Because that
Yeah.
was really cool. We were all very excited to see that you got to do your own kind of, collection there. I love the way your Elvish Mystic looks holding the skull with that kind of, like, hair coming down. Did you get to choose the cards in it, or did they come to you and say, "These are the cards we would like you to draw"?
At first, they asked me whether I had any preference as far as cards were concerned. My answer to that was that I had no preference. I was more interested in knowing what they would think would be good for me. Uh, but I only had one request: is that I asked them for a basic land because at that time the Dominaria thing didn't had not happened yet, and
Mm.
I had so many players asking me, when are you going to have a basic land, because we would like to build decks around your illustrations. And lands are desperately missing. So that's the only thing I asked for. Can I have at least one land, and I'm going to be fine, choose the rest because I want to know. And and I mean the card list was perfect. I had no objection to what
Oh,
they gave
yeah.
to me because I mean, okay, that's and also I got to mention that it's not because we've been artists for so many years for the game that when you receive such a commission, because this one too came out of nowhere. I mean, all of a sudden there was the art director telling me, okay, we want to make a secret layer just for your artwork. I mean, I cannot even start to explain the what the feeling is for an illustrator when you receive something like that.
Oh, it
And
must have
it,
been
it
so cool.
it took me a few minutes to realize what was going on. And yeah, and then after that it was something really new, because it's like it's the first time and the only time an art director ever told me, okay, I mean, that's what the art director said. He said, okay, there won't be any art direction. I'm going to sit down, relax, and see what you do. And that's it. So, I could have done, I mean, anything starting from that, because I mean, of course, I'm not even sure that it was really that important if the illustration had a direct link with the card. I mean, they seemed to be so open to
Oh, yeah.
anything.
Believe me, some of these secret layers are as far away from the idea of the card as you can
Hmm.
get. They're just,
Yeah,
"I wanted
yeah.
to draw this, here we are."
Yeah, and that was really interesting. And for me, it was mainly a good occasion to. It was a mix between a love letter to the game for me, because I mean the cars were awesome. I loved
Yeah.
them all, and also it was a good occasion for me to show to the players uh, a bit more of my personality as far as an artist, because I'm always doing always commission work, and I don't have time for personal work. That's a fact. It makes me a little sad, but
Mm,
it means that I have a lot of work, so I cannot complain about that. But for the
yeah.
first time, I was commissioned personal work. That's something new, and I really wanted to show what I like as far as art is concerned, and what I wanted to express. So that was, yeah, it was a wonderful memory for me, this time, the
Yeah.
few weeks I've been working on the secret layer.
Can we talk about the basic land specifically?
Yeah.
So you got to do this really beautiful forest,
Mm,
and you did also a sketch version of it, which I thought was really cool. But so this forest looks almost like it's carved out of wood or stone, and it's got, like, a butterfly on it and these beautiful, like, wooden motifs. And how did you come up with this? Or like, if they say, like, okay, fine, you could do a basic land, like, the other card you got, Elvish Mystic, Deep Shadow, Death Shadow, and Mother of Runes. Those are at least specific ideas. But when you're a land, you can do whatever you want. So
mm.
how did you come up with this?
At first, I made a few sketches uh, that were more conventional, I would say.
Hmm.
That's a sketch I never showed because sometimes I'm keeping compositions for myself in case they would be useful. My first iteration for the forest was actually like a you know um, how can I say that? Um, uh, as I mentioned earlier, what made me draw at first was Beauty and the Beast. So my first
Hmm.
iteration was a composition in the forest with a beast shadow in the
Oh,
background with mirrors shards coming from the
sure.
trees and all of, well, something like that. And I liked it, but I thought, "Mm, maybe I could go a bit further than that. Maybe I could do something more different than that." And I really like sculptures.
Hmm.
I have on Pinterest, I have a folder full of sculpting work of all types, whether it be on stone and whether it be on wood or anything.
Yeah.
And I said, I would like to include some sculpting work in an illustration. And that's how I came up with this idea of maybe, you know, uh, someone found a really ancient carving somewhere in a jungle or in a forest or something like that. It's like you know, maybe there is a forest around all this, but all you can see is this, stone representation, maybe from an ancient civilization or
I love
whatever.
it.
And so yeah, that's what led me to this idea. And again, I had few different ideas. At first it was more like, a white marble that evoked more something like it would take place in Greece or something like that. And then
Mm.
I changed for something that looked more organic, I think, with warmer
Yeah.
colors and yeah.
Yeah, because this one feels like it's actually carved out of, like, a real stone
Yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe out
yeah.
of, like, petrified wood or something, and it
Exactly.
feels
Yeah.
much more like something you would stumble in the forest, especially
Yeah.
with the way that the leaves kinda drape over the edge, and,
Exactly.
I love fall leaves, so I
Mm,
think that one's gorgeous, and god, the Elvin Mystic you drew in there is just seriously one of my favorite paintings you've done.
mm.
It's so beautiful, it's like, the symmetry between, like, the hair of the elf and the hair on the skull thing, and oh god, that's such a cool painting. And I'm looking at, like, a detailed version right now, and it's like, "Oh, you've got, like, blood on their hand?" I'm like, "Oh,
Mm.
that's so cool."
Yeah,
Um,
I wanted to. I really like the. How can I say that? The shamanic look. As far as
mm,
style is concerned, and it a mix between natural elements and something more sophisticated, and a mix of textures like metal, a bone, and
yeah.
leaves, etc., etc. And also here it was more about expressing something else that I like, that is literature, and I really love Shakespeare. So
Mm.
I wanted to, of course, I mean the hint is pretty obvious here. So that was my main starting point for the Elvish Mystic, was the idea of the Hamlet scene and the skull.
Yeah. What about Death's Shadow?
Death Shadow is again a love letter to my love for classical art, classical paintings, and classical sculptures. And this one is a clear hint to Michelangelo's Pieta.
Yeah.
I really love religious representations. Not that I am a believer myself, I have to admit, but I really love all the religious art. So I thought Death Shadow was the right place for that. Again, I showed my one of my early sketches for Death Shadow. I showed that on social medias. It was more fantasy. It was more on the fantasy side, the dark fantasy side, showing like a woman that would be a mix between a beautiful woman and a spider, because I'm so afraid of spiders. And she was holding a candle, and she was still holding a man in her arms.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I really wanted to go further into the more classical painting
Oh, yeah.
approach, the really baroque approach of the illustration. I really wanted to, and I received that comment a few times when the illustration was released. People were telling me, this illustration would fit in a church or would fit in a museum
Yeah.
of some sort.
Oh,
That's really
absolutely.
what I wanted to do, and I mean, so happy and grateful about the response I received from players, because I think in all these illustration, in all the Secret Lair, the Death Shadow is the most personal for me. First of all, as far as style is concerned, but also because I worked on that in a very specific time of my life. That is, I
Mm.
had just lost a really dear one, and I was still mourning this person, and I wanted to, to let it
Okay.
out in an illustration. So that one is really special for me, also for that.
Yeah, I just love it, and you're absolutely right. The posing is exactly like the way the Pieta is with, Jesus lying straight
Yeah, yeah,
across.
exactly.
I got to see that statue in the Vatican, and I was like, "This is one of the
Mm.
most incredible pieces I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah, because
It just
it's the reason why I like that type of art. It's That's because it's expressing so much with such, subtle details. It's only about,
mm,
a hand's pose, or just, the way the face is resting, or
yes.
things like that. And that's something I'm especially interested in whenever I'm working on a piece. Subtle details. I'm not really the type of illustrator who's gonna do, really badass things. I'm not the best for that. I'm more, I'm more into, I'm better for, you know, you know, just an expression or a gesture or something like that. That's
Yeah,
the main skill I have, I think.
I've noticed that in a lot of your artwork that there's always some little bit there that's either a focal point or something small that just arrests you and grabs your
Mm,
attention and just drags you into the piece. And you're right, that I think is very much your strength. Like when you did Ovia Pashiri from Kaladesh, she's got this filigree peacock just kind of on her
mm.
shoulder there. And I don't know, I've always loved that picture. It reminds me of like some aunts I've had in my life.
Oh,
So
really?
it's yeah. I was like, oh look, it looks like my family. It's
That's
so
so
adorable.
cool. And you had a
Yeah,
card looking just like you recently, right?
oh my god, in The Lord of the Rings, a
Yes,
Brazilian painter made a farmer that looks exactly like me,
yes,
like,
yes.
I mean, if
And
my hair was
everybody
black,
agreed about that.
it was unbelievable, I couldn't handle that. I went to my backyard and I cosplayed it in my garden, it was amazing.
Yes, it had to happen. Yes, you had to do that.
Yeah, I guess we should finish off your secret lair because people will be mad if I don't talk about Mother of Runes. So, because that painting is stunning.
Mm,
It's just absolutely stunning. The lighting you use and the wall behind her and the way that the clothing drapes on this character is
mm,
beautiful.
mm.
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna ask a cliche question. What is one of your favorite things that you've gotten to draw or paint or whatever?
For magic,
Yeah.
it's really a tough question because it changes all the time. It evolves because, you know, uh, time goes and projects keep being awesome. So it's hard for me to choose just one thing. What I tend to answer to that is that, in a career like the career I have for magic, I there are clear milestones, I would say. Of course, my very first illustration, that is Guardians of Meletis,
Mm,
still has a place in my heart because it was the very first one. And, your first magic piece, I mean, that's something big.
yeah.
And after that, I would say that the piece that really changed, uh, not changed, but the moment when I had the feeling that something was changing as far as the magic audience is concerned was the Chandra Torch of the Defiance.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that art is so good.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the moment when there was some kind of a shift. I mean, the main uh, the main way for me to see that was how long my queues became at events. Yeah, that's when that's when I started to realize that, okay, I was absolutely not prepared for that. I have one anecdote. I think players already uh, heard maybe that story, but I'm always like to tell it because it gives a rough idea of the type of things we are going through. It was, an event in Paris. And it was, all of a
Mm.
sudden, there were so many people in my line. I mean, at some point, I came at my table and people were already there. And
Hmm.
I arrived. That was something new. And I was like, I mean, who's there? But it's your table. My table? Really? I thought it was another illustrator. So, I spent that weekend, I was like in a state of shock. I was, what's happening? And suddenly it was like day three, the last day. And I just left my table and I didn't tell my husband who was here to help me. I didn't tell him. I left my table during a break, I think, and I disappeared in the restrooms. And then I couldn't help it. I just fell asleep like I mean, my brain just said, "Okay, enough, enough. That's enough." And I think I woke up
That's
like
funny.
terminate. And I woke up like 20 minutes later, and I
Oh,
was like,
Jesus Christ.
where am I? Okay. I went back to my table and my husband went, but where were you? And people were waiting. Where were you? I don't know. So yeah, that's something. I mean, when you choose, at least that's my case. When I chose this career, I had the hope that I could hide behind my illustrations forever, and that people would never see me, and I could just stay at home and hide. It didn't happen. So even today, for me, it's always, and I mean always, an amazement to see that people are waiting in line at my table.
Oh
And
my God.
every time I'm going at an event, I believe you. I mean, believe me. I think, believe me. I always believe that no one's gonna be there, and I was like, okay,
Your
but
lines are as long as John Avon's. There's like no one else who has longer lines than you.
and starting from that, I always have mixed feeling because I'm also sorry for the people waiting because I have to wait for so long. I was like, oh my god, I'm sorry that you have to wait so long. So whenever I can, I am just putting a chair at the end of my line in front of me. So please take a seat now. You made it. So, so yeah, I think these things are never to be taken for granted because if players weren't there, we wouldn't be either. And I, I,
Exactly.
I never can forget that. It's always, I mean, um, it's incredible because as I was telling you earlier, I started from zero and even from less than zero, no art class. I was so far from the artistic world. I
Mm.
think So when I see myself today, I always have work and I'm always working on things I'm so happy to be working on. If I mean it's the process is still going on in my head, I think. It's still not
Isn't that an amazing feeling to
it
know that you
is.
finally
Yes.
succeeded to this point and are
Yeah, yeah.
recognized? And it's like when I go to events and people come up to me and I'm just like, I'm just putting stuff into the ether. I never think about who's actually looking at it. And they're like, wow, I love this thing you did. And it's like, you're always taken by surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
such a good feeling though. It's like, oh
Yes, it is
wow,
a good.
somebody paid
It's
attention.
really it's so gratifying, and it gives
That's the exact word,
a real
gratifying.
meaning to all the efforts. Of course, it takes some efforts, but it's completely normal, and it's so worth the effort when you see people. I mean, and wow, that's wonderful. That's all I can
Yeah, I
say.
know. Can we talk about that Chandra though?
Mm,
Oh my god, Torch of Defiance is like one of my favorite pieces of art and magic. It's the your ability to get the fire, like one of the things I've noticed with you that's really really cool is your ability to get like fire and water effects and
mm,
actually make them look like real fire or water, almost photographic.
mm.
That is like that painting, the composition of that painting is incredible. I mean, obviously it's one of the best paintings of magic. But how did you do that fire? Like, is that like a real challenge for you to make that kind of look translucent and awesome at the same time?
Yes, it is a challenge, and I have a really specific technique to do that. That is, um, that's something I built through the years because when you are a fantasy illustrator, you get to paint fire really often. So, so you have to learn, you have to find a way to make it happen. So
Mm,
the way I do it, I mean, that's no secret. I even think that a lot of illustration a lot of illustrators know how to do that, but I start on a black canvas, completely
mm.
black, and then I paint the fire normally, oranges, yellows, and reds, and all this and that. And then I'm using, a layer merging effect in Photoshop that makes the translucent thing thanks to the black background. So the black completely
Um,
disappears, and then all that stays are the colors of fire and all. And then starting from that, I'm using, an eraser to make it look even more translucent, and then I'm adding some touches for reflections and things like that. So it's taking forever.
yeah, I believe it, but
It is taking
the
forever,
effort shows.
yeah. But yeah, yes, the result can be cool, but it's not always, again, effects, special effects are things I don't feel really at ease with, like fire or water. So it takes me a lot of time whenever a special
Mm.
effect is concerned. So yeah, I'm trying to find my own little ways to to make them look as good as possible.
It's- Recently, there was a card that you made that came out called Vanish into Eternity, which is Elspeth holding the chalice and it just explodes through her.
Oh yes. Mm,
And she's like just screaming and it's one of the most like poignant and like potent moments in the story.
mm,
And your artwork is just so amazing in
mm.
that moment. Um, like, can you do you remember how you kind of got that like feeling? Because like the emotion on her face is just so like it's both pain and like kind
Mm.
of triumphant at the same time. It's incredible.
Yeah, for this one, I really chose the simplest approach as possible because it's all about the emotion. And I think that if you want to communicate an emotion, you have to get rid of everything around the character, which is a
Mm,
reason why the background is so minimal, which is pretty unusual for me.
yeah,
And also, that's the reason why I chose a side angle that is only showing, the side of the character, because I really wanted to show the pain uh, in her body, and the best way was to see how her back was like, she
just
was,
fragmenting.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's only a work of expression on the character's face and lighting to show the dramatic thing. So for this one, I really drew inspiration from the Caravagism style, Italian
Mm,
style. That's all chiaroscuros, the light and
yeah,
darkness, pure light and
yeah,
pure darkness. Because for me, that's the most, dramatic type of paintings, that can be so um, I mean,
yeah.
there is some kind of a violence between light and dark used that way. So, as it was a really violent moment for the character, I wanted to express that thanks to a really simple illustration. And yeah.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. I mean, you've got it exactly right in the sense of like it really does feel violent. It's
Mm,
like this kind of she is having this action done to her and it's painful, but you know that you can see that she'd resolved to do this
mm.
and it's phenomenal. It's a really just potent and powerful piece. I think it's like it's deeply underrated in my opinion. It's like just phenomenal. I love that art.
I'm really happy that you're talking about this piece because, in general, we get to work on, more actiony things
Mm,
because that's what the game is about. It has to
right.
correspond to the cards mechanics and all. But when you are working on a story card, that's when we get to work on more, you know. That's when we get to express feelings for good, because it's
Mm.
about the characters, events in life, and so that's the moment when we can go a bit further into the emotional scope of the game. So I really like that type of cards for that reason.
Yeah, we don't get enough of those, I think. I think Magic would be a lot better if we got to have more emotional scenes like that. But I'm glad that they gave you that one because that was such a big and powerful moment in the story, and it just you killed it. You did a fantastic job
And
with
I
it.
mean, That's such a great character too.
Oh, she's one of my she is my favorite character. So I was very sad to see that she just got
Yes.
blown up, but it was really cool.
Yeah, oh no.
Um,
Oh.
I was like, "No, not Elspeth, no." Um, Also, your soldier token is, like, one of my favorite soldier tokens ever. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I love the armor, it looks almost like it comes out of, like, a Brandon Sanderson novel or something. It feels like it's really just beautiful.
That's a
Um
funny. I have two examples like that. There is this soldier token, and there is
mm.
also a card in Kaladesh called, I don't know how it's called. It's a character in Kaladesh. It's a common card. It's a common creature, and she has, mechanical arms in her back.
Oh my god, that's one of my favorite cards of all time. I have a
Yes,
playmat with that card.
and these two cards, that's really funny because people keep asking me, but wasn't it supposed to be a legendary?
Yeah, it's called
No,
Scrapper Champion, that card.
no, no, a scrapper champion. Yes, and I mean, people tend to think that it's so sad that they are just a token or a common creature because to their eyes they look like a planeswalker or a
I
legendary or
said it
whatever.
Yeah, I said it last week. I'm like, "It is offensive to me that you took Scrapper Champion, which is one of the greatest arts of all time, of this amazing woman with the mechanical arms and pole arms and everything. It just looks so cool, and then stuck her onto a draft uncommon, and I was so offended. I
Well,
was like, "Why would you waste this card?"
it's a good illustration of what I was saying earlier. I mean, for me, whether it is a planeswalker or a common card, I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
the work I'm putting into the piece is just the same.
I mean, I will say though, Scrapper Champion, I went out of my way to find a playmat of that card because it really is just when you blow it up,
Mm,
it's I love it. I love that card. And I think my other favorite of yours is Painter's Servant that you did for
mm,
the invention for Kaladesh,
yes.
because you got this amazing filigreed guy who's basically spray painting, but you've got these gorgeous puffs of paint that kind
Yeah.
of go through this like pastel like palette, and it's pops
Mm.
so beautifully out of that orange frame. Yeah, I don't know.
I gotta
I adore
say, I
that card.
mean, Kaladesh was my favorite set of all time.
Mine too.
In my 10 years of Magic, it's still my favorite set.
I hope we get to go back, and I hope we get to see more
Me
of your art
too.
there, because
I really hope it. Yeah, yeah.
oh my
But I gotta work on, um, Ragavan
yeah,
card
you did the Ragavan art,
and also the
Kari
Carrie
Zev and something, right?
Zevan, and yeah, it was a little comeback.
Baral and
I
Kari
was
Zev,
like,
that's what it was.
"Yay, Kaladesh again!" So yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, your Ragavan is gorgeous. It's
Mm.
absolutely beautiful card.
And it's such a
Um,
great card. I was so
oh,
happy.
it's like one of the most busted cards in Magic, so I think you're okay with that one. Oh my god. Yeah, I think the last card I wanna talk about is Thalia, because I think that's, like, one of your most iconic cards.
Mm.
Thalia, Heretic Cathar from, it's like, Shadows of Innistrad or whatever, because the way her hair is just kinda draped and she's got the fencer's sword and she's looking over her shoulder, it's just that, and, like, Chandra, I think, were the 2 cards that everybody was
Mm.
like, "Who is this person? And I need everything she's ever done." Like, those were the ones that I think is where everybody discovered really who you were. And,
Yeah,
yeah.
Thalia is a really Magali-ish, piece.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of hair and a lot of fabric in the wind. So,
It's
yes.
very romance novel cover. It's
Yes, it
very just
is, it is.
posed in a
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful way. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know, I just think I love that card. I think
I
it's so
wanted
cool.
to look, I wanted to give it, I really like the aesthetics of the um, mm, um, 17th century in
Mm,
France.
like
Uh,
Three Musketeers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I really love that. And Thalia was a good occasion uh, to work on that type of character because for this card especially, I got to design the armor. The armor
Oh,
didn't exist before. We knew the character with her more, her iconic like jacket and all, as
yeah.
Johannes Voss painted her a few times before that. It's
Mhm.
really an iconic card, and for that one, I got to create an armor from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it was really cool for that, and also really cool because she's a beautiful character and a strong one, and
Yeah. She's absolutely
And after
yeah.
that, I got to paint her a few times after that, and I loved every time. And I'm signing her so much at events, so many Thalias. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Thalia is like Thalia and Chandra are to me like your iconic like Thalia, Chandra, and I guess Titania is like the iconic Magali art that I think of
Mm,
when I think of you.
mm,
Because like they're just so iconically everything that represents your art kind of shows up in those cards.
that's
I love
true.
it. I think it's fantastic. Wow, man. God, you do so much good work. I hope that we get to keep seeing you doing more magic art. And I know that there's stuff coming in Eldraine, which has been revealed now. Like Rowan and looks incredible, and her
Mm.
armor looks super cool.
I mean, this set is really dear to me because I was in the concept push team,
Oh,
so I was part of the illustrators who gave the look of this new trip to Eldraine, and it's one of
what
my.
is that like? What do they ask you to do?
Well, we had a starting point with the first set, but from that we had to create new, as it's taking inspiration from fairy tales and all. We had to work from that material and the iconic idea we can have of these fairy tales, and then from that try to take a step further and bring something new and something fresh so it evokes these fairy tales but still don't show the quite the same look, you know like
Mm,
for example in the first Eldraine set. I mean, in the key art I painted of Rohan was, it's a hint at the Red Riding Hood, but with a
yeah.
twist, like. And all the challenge in Eldraine is to find the twist in the fairy tales we know. I got to
Mm,
say that this one was such a huge playground. First, I got to work on with such wonderful team of artists, and I got to say
yeah.
that that was an opportunity for me. I really have the feeling that I expressed so much of my personality in this set, and the thing I think there are a few things I'm really proud of, but there are two things I'm especially proud of. It's the witches because there is a lot of my work in the witches, and I think the
Mm,
Ariette card is a good example because she is
yeah.
my creation, and I'm so proud of her. I mean, a wonderful moment of my career, getting to work on these witches, and also the the fox werewolves thing.
Yeah.
You know, I worked on the elves quite a bit, and so much fun. Well, I'm hoping I'm going to ask Wizards the authorization to share some of my concept work on
Oh.
Eldraine because I'm so proud of what it was. So much fun. I mean,
Oh
so much
man.
fun.
And Ariete looks amazing. I love like the
Mm.
apple in her hand and the way her collar kind of
Yeah, yeah,
goes.
yeah.
It
And the
feels very
reflection in the color.
yeah, it's so
Yes,
cool. It's like
yes.
I mean, it feels like, you said you started off wanting to do Disney fairy tales. Here it
Mm.
is, your Disneyland.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's like it's my own kind of Disneyland. Yes, that's true.
it's amazing.
It's
Oh,
dark
fantastic
Disneyland.
work. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been wonderful, and I'm so excited. Are you gonna be coming to Las Vegas by chance?
No, I'm not. It's a matter of schedule because a
Mm,
really cool project is in the way.
fair.
Yeah.
It's good to be busy sometimes, right?
Yes, yes. So no Vegas for me. I'm sorry.
Alas. Well, hopefully we'll get to run into each other at another event, and then
I
I can
really hope
have
so.
you
Yeah, yeah.
have you sketch out an asterisk on the back of a token for me.
Yes. Let's
Uh,
remember that idea.
yeah, that would be so funny. I can't believe it.
Yes.
Oh man, I really those postcards that you made with the 5 basic lands were
Yes.
incredible. That's such a good idea.
For such projects, I really have to thank my partner in crime, that is my husband, who is the man in the shadows. I mean, I have to say, I mean, everyone, a round of applause for my husband, whose name is Alexandre, because I mean, he's an illustrator too, but he gave up on a good part of his career to help me with mine. So
That's amazing.
he's the one taking care of my social medias, and he's the one taking care of my eShop and all the great projects happening. That is like these postcards or the limited prints editions or whatever. It's thanks to him, because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have time to do that, to be able to give that type of things to players and collectors. So I wouldn't go far without him. So I really want people to know that uh, a good part of the nice pretty stuff going on in my shop, including my token projects.
Oh
that's uh
yeah, you've got a new
yeah,
Patreon
yeah,
coming out too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I made the illustrations, but all the rest, that's his work. So
Well,
yeah,
we appreciate him a
I'm really
lot.
grateful to have him.
Do you want to talk about your Patreon a little bit and plug it
Yeah,
before we go?
yeah, yeah. It's so the actual opening of the Patreon is early October. For
Mm,
now, we showed the first token that's going to be released. That is a white soldier token.
yeah, it
and
looks really cool.
um, and we also explained the tiers. There's going to be 3 tiers, so it's a really simple Patreon. There's no way you can get lost in the offer. It's going to be pretty simple. So yeah, it's going to look really good. I really wanted to make it, uh, really looking good, starting from the first tier. I mean, even the cards at tier 1 look really great. And I have, etched foil rendering for tier 2, and I have,
God.
hot foil stamping for the deluxe one, the tier 3. So, and we already have some samples that came out of the printer. I can't believe it's so shiny. I mean, if you like shiny stuff, it's the shiniest thing in the shiny history. I'm so happy. I mean, it took forever for us to find a good printer. We found a great printer in France for the tier 3 to make the really. I'm so proud of what's gonna come, and also I'm really excited because, just like I gotta say that it is my secret lair who gave me the idea of this Patreon, because when I saw the response of players regarding my more personal work, I thought that maybe there was something I could push a bit further here, and maybe this would be maybe a good moment in my career to express myself a bit more, to show a bit more of my. I'm showing a lot of my personality in Magic, but maybe I can go further than that. And for me, this Patreon is that's the moment for me. So I'm really excited about it, and I really hope that players are gonna like that side
Oh
of
yeah,
my
of
work
course they are. Are
too.
you kidding?
I hope. I hope. For me, it is just like the waiting lines at events. You never know. Maybe no one's gonna be there, but you always hope that someone's gonna be there.
Man, if someone like you has imposter syndrome, I have no chance. Oh my god.
I
Well, I
do,
wish you
I
all the
do.
best.
It's like a boulder I'm carrying, but I am trying to survive through that.
Ah, it wouldn't be an artist if you had any confidence, right?
I
Like,
guess so.
okay, I've got, like I just realized I have, like, 2 questions for you that
Mhm.
are just very simple, and then we can wrap it. Uh, you've got a Zelda poster behind you,
Yeah.
and I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom lately. Have you done any Zelda fan art?
No, no,
Oh my
no.
god. Okay, well,
You
that's the
know
next
what?
thing we'd have to commission.
You know what? I think that at some point I'm gonna do some fan art of, whether it be Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, because I mean these games are the loves of my life.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
every
spent
every morning, I don't have a lot of time to play video games. It took me, I'm not lying, 5 years to get through Breath of the Wild because I don't have time to play. I mean, I'm not kidding. So every morning I play like 30
an
minutes.
hour or 2.
Yeah, 30 minutes. That's
30 minutes?
yeah, yeah.
That's impressive.
With my coffee, it's the moment when I'm, gathering some mushrooms and then trying to to evolve in the game. And it's like these moments are so important for me. I love this game so much, and most
Oh,
of all,
yeah.
I think for me it's one of the best looking games ever.
Yes.
And please, people, don't be fooled by like the anime look it has, because as far as I'm concerned, I tend to think that it is way more difficult to come up with that kind of thing than to come up with something really realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
behind the scenes of a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdoms, the artists who worked on these games, for me, they are like gods. It's so beautiful in such a tasteful look. I mean, it's
Oh
incredible,
yeah.
incredible.
And like the costuming and the different
Oh
ways, like,
yes,
oh my god, it's so good.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
made one mistake in that game. I put Link in his flying suit when I there was a big poignant moment where you're going to meet Zelda on the dragon or whatever, and it's this beautiful cutscene, and then you see Link with this goofy ass leather mask, and I'm like,
You know what?
oh no, why did I do
That's
that?
something I always paid attention to, because I paid attention to that in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm really careful about that. But when I played Breath of the Wild, I said, okay, I'm gonna fight Ganon now. Don't make mistake. You put the most beautiful armor
Yes.
you have, and I chose the one. I don't know how it's called in English because I have the French version, so
Yeah.
there is a translation going on. But there is this really incredible armor with lights and all that looks like the the legged guardians.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how
The
it's called in
the
English.
yeah,
Archaeonic.
it's like the Zonai armor or something. I don't know.
I don't know
I know
how
what you're
it's
talking about.
called, but it's really a wonderful armor. And when when you're fighting the last Ganon, uh, oh, you are so shiny and you are so beautiful, and all, okay, I'm ready for the fight now. I look so good. I have to win.
Well, in English, we called it the ancient set.
Okay,
So it
okay.
looks like it makes him look like he's dressed up like all the Guardian robots and with the
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
I
that
put him in
was
the
my
royal
choice.
gear with the hat,
Yeah. No,
the
no,
military hat
no
feathers.
hat for me. I wanted to see Link's face, but the rest of the armor was fine.
Oh my god, but Link in his blue champion's outfit is such a Magali pose. Oh
That's
my god, I
true.
would love
And you know what? It's gonna make you laugh because you know that I like hair. And in Tears
yeah,
of the Kingdom,
you get the headband.
you can put his tie
Yes.
his hair. I don't want that. I want the flowy hair when he's running. So I
See,
have
I like to tie his
yeah,
hair
yeah.
back because it reminds me
No,
of my hair.
I didn't do that, but I know I like the flowy hair.
Oh man, now I need to get I would pay money for a fan art that you draw of Link standing there on a cliff with his hair just flowing and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Master
But
Sword in his
you
hand.
know
Oh my
what?
god.
I really think I'm gonna do something at some point because I love this game far too
Oh
much.
god, it's so good. Oh man. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me. This has been a lovely conversation. I'm a huge fan and I'm glad that we got to make time to do this.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful because you're such a highlight in the community. It's a honor
I
for me
really
to be
appreciate
here.
that. And Olivia says hello. Uh
Oh, Olivia, hello.
yeah, like all of my cosplay friends absolutely love you because you give them so many fun things to dress up as. Oh, how does it feel when you see somebody cosplay as one of your characters?
oh, oh, oh. I mean, it's always it's I can't even explain because again, whenever something like that happens, I always remember teenage Magali, And if I could tell teenage Magali, one day wonderful looking people are going to wear your costumes that you designed, I would have said, of course, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable because I'm aware my assistant, who is a cosplayer too. She's
Mm,
Manju on social
yeah.
medias, and thanks to her, I could have like a behind the scenes look at what it meant to be a cosplayer. I mean, a cosplayer,
Mm.
she is making her own armors, and she is doing everything herself for most of her costumes, and thanks to her, I could discover what it meant to be a cosplayer. And I mean, when I see the time it takes and the effort it takes, the mere idea of a cosplayer choosing one of my illustrations to spend hundreds of hours of suffering, that's really a honor. And I mean, I got to say that in the Magic community, we have incredible cosplayer who are
Oh yeah.
working from such a tough material, because it's, magic is not a simple, magic characters more often than not are really not simple characters to choose for a cosplay.
No.
So they deserve all due respect for the work they do. And I mean, whenever you're going at a convention, and we are lucky enough to have cosplayers here. I remember lately I was in Barcelona, and I could see many, many cosplayers, because it was such a large event. So many cosplayers were there. They were all like, "You are so beautiful. How can you do that?" I mean, yes, I have
Yeah.
a deep respect for them, and I'm always grateful for whenever they are choosing one of my characters. It means a lot for me.
Yeah, I'm very good friend with like Tappy Toe Claus and with
Mm.
Olivia and
Oh,
with the
they are
cosplayer
really,
community. And
they are so great. They are so
they're
great.
so they're some of my favorite people, and their
Mm.
skills are just unbelievable.
And
And
also,
sometimes they shove me.
I'm sorry, but they bring such a positive thing to the community
Yes,
too. The
yes,
way they communicate, and the way they interact with people, and what they
100%.
show of the game. We are really lucky to have people like that in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to cosplay as one of your characters as Calix when my hair was a little bit blacker, but I am very out of shape and would not look good in that costume. So,
But
but I'm still gonna try someday.
Calix, there is a lot of fabric, flowy fabric, so you can still hide behind the fabric, no problem.
Luckily, now I have a halfling I can cosplay as, and so I'm fine. Uh, but yeah, anyways, thank you, Magali, for joining me, and everybody. You
Thank
can
you.
find her on Twitter at Cathoware, CATH.
I'm not
You
even
know how to
try.
find her.
I'm not gonna try myself too. So
Yeah,
Magali
yeah.
Villeneuve.
You and her Patreon will come out in October, and you guys should totally check
Yep.
it out. And obviously, every Magic set ever has got a painting by her, and it's amazing. As always, you can find me at Gear Report Gears, and you can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or YouTube on Tuesdays, thanks to EK. And also me on my other two podcasts, Shiva and Wheeler Love Magic and the Chronicles of Dragonlance. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.